Alright, so today we're going to talk about Into the Woods. Into the Woods is easily one of my favorite musicals of all time. And I know, I hear you saying, but Joel, this is movie force. This isn't musical force, you dumb, stupid, dumb. This movie force.
Where's the movie?
And yeah, you raised some good points, but here's the thing. Into the Woods has been made into a movie by Disney and professionally filmed officially 2 times, on top of like a ton of different professional recordings from colleges, high schools, middle schools. Like, this musical is one of the most iconic shows in Broadway history, in musical theater history, honestly. The musical is written by Stephen Sondheim, who some of you may know as the musician for Sweeney Todd and Sunday in the Park with George. He also wrote a little musical called Merrily We Roll Along, which is being made into a movie by Ben Platt. And a quick tangent here, I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do with that movie, because basically what happens in Merrily We Roll Along is the musical takes place over 20 years, and it's like it travels backwards in time. So we start in the present, but then we travel backwards through the history of these 2 friends. And so Ben Platt, what he's doing is actually spending the next 20 years filming this musical, so that it can be more accurate when it comes out. So if this ends up actually becoming a full-fledged thing, I'm looking forward to seeing how it turns out, because I think that's a pretty interesting concept and something that's not really ever been done before. There's never been a movie that's taken that long in production. There probably is. If there is, let me know in the comments. But like, as far as I know, this will be the first time that I've ever seen something like that happen. Anyways, so Into the Woods. Into the Woods is basically Avengers Infinity War, but with fairy tales. So you've got Jack and the Beanstalk, Cinderella, Little Red Riding Hood, with a little bit of Three Little Pigs and Rapunzel thrown in there. And then you've also got the baker and his wife and this witch. And those are the main characters of the show. So here's a brief summary of what happens. You've got the baker and his wife, and they want to have a kid, but they cannot have a kid because a witch placed a spell on their house, because the baker's father stole magic beans from her when the baker was a kid. And then the baker's father died in a baking accident. So anyways, the witch is like, haha, yeah, I made you sterile. What you gonna do about it? There's nothing you can do about it, except there is one thing that you can do about it. Go into the woods and bring me back these ingredients for a potion, and then I will drink the potion and make sure that the curse is lifted and that you can have a baby and you will no longer be sterile. And the baker is like, all right, sweet, let's go. And the wife is like, yeah, let's go. And the baker's like, no, I don't, the spell's on my house, which means only I can lift it. And the baker's wife is like, we're in this together. I married you. We're in it for the long run. We must lift the spell together. And the baker's like, no, stay home. And the wife is like, dang it. So the baker goes into the forest and finds a cape from a little girl, Little Red Riding Hood. And he's like, hey, can I have this cape? And the girl's like, ew, no, you're creepy. Get away from me. And then the girl comes across the wolf. And the wolf is like, hey, what you doing? And Little Red Riding Hood's like, I'm heading into the forest to visit my grandmother because she is sick and I have food for her. And the wolf is like, hey, where does your grandmother live, just out of curiosity? And then Little Red Riding Hood proceeds to dox her grandmother and reveal all of her personal information. And so we cut to the house, and Little Red Riding Hood gets there. And oh no, she's been eaten by a wolf. And so has her grandmother. And so the baker comes by and is like, I really need to get that cape. And then he's like, wait a minute, you're not a granny, you're a wolf. And he kills the wolf and gets the little girl and his granny out of there. And the little girl's like, hey, you saved my life. That's pretty poggers. You can have my cape. The baker's like, thank you so much. So he's back in the forest and he's like, okay, shoot, what other ingredients did I need to get? Cow is yellow as blood, or was it right as milk, or I don't remember. And then his wife shows up And she's like, bruh, do you really not remember?
The cow is white as milk, the cape is red as blood, the hair is yellow as corn, the slipper is pure as gold.
What are you doing here?
You forgot your scarf.
And then they come across Jack from Jack and the Beanstalk. And he is trying to sell his cow for no less than £5 so that he and his mother can have food to eat. And the baker and his wife are like, here, would you like this magic bean instead? And Jack is like, well, I kind of need money. You know, my mom is just trying to make a decent living. And, you know, we're very low on food and resources. I don't really see how a bean is going to help me. And they're like, no, take the bean. It's magic. And he's like, oh, okay. So he trades the cow to the baker and his wife for the bean. And then he gets home and his mother is like, what the frick were you thinking? I said no less than £5. This bean's not going to do us any good. So she yeets the bean onto the ground and the bean grows into a beanstalk, a giant beanstalk, which Jack proceeds to climb. And then he just goes and steals a bunch of stuff. So he steals some gold and he takes it back to the baker and he's like, hey, can I buy my cow back now? And the baker's like, where'd you get this gold? And the boy's like, what, you want more? I can go get some more. And so he runs off. Meanwhile, the baker's wife comes across Cinderella, who is running away from the prince. And she's like, hey, you know, what's the prince like? And Cinderella's like, well, you know, I mean, other than the fact that he keeps trying to chase me down, he seems cool, I guess. And then the prince arrives trying to chase her down. And Cinderella's like, shoot. And then the baker's wife notices, oh wait, you've got a shoe. I need that shoe to have a baby. And Cinderella's like,
What?
And so then, you know, through some miracle, they end up eventually getting all the ingredients they need to make this potion. So they get the cow from Jack, the cape from Little Red Riding Hood, the slipper from Cinderella, and then hair as yellow as corn from Rapunzel, who it turns out is the baker's sister, who was kidnapped by the witch. And so they feed all these ingredients to the cow, and then the cow milks out the potion, and everything's good now. The witch is beautiful again, although she has lost her powers in trade for being beautiful again. And then Cinderella got her prince and has become a princess, and Little Red Riding Hood and her grandmother are safe, and Jack and his mom are relatively wealthy now, and the baker and his wife have the kid, and everything seems to be happy, right?
Wrong, sir. Wrong.
Now we're in Act 2. So in Act 2, there's a giant, and the giant has come down to Earth and is like, who killed my husband? Because it turns out, remember, like, Jack went up into the beanstalk? Yeah, it turns out while he was stealing and committing grand theft larceny, he also killed this giant's husband, which is not cool at all. The kingdom is trying to figure out what to do about this giant now, and so they go back into the wood to figure out what to do. And then the baker's wife gets separated from the baker, and she meets the prince in the woods. You know, Cinderella's prince. And Cinderella's prince is like, hey,
How's it going?
and they make out for a bit, and then the prince leaves, and the baker's wife gets stomped on and killed by this giant. And then the witch finds Jack, who is crying over the dead baker's wife as if she were his mother. And his mother has been killed too now by one of the royal officials to try and shut her up from revealing Jack's location or something. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Anyways, the baker is like super mad. And then everyone starts arguing over, okay, well, whose fault is it that like we're here now and we're all gonna die because of this giant? It's your fault. All I really want to And then the witch is like, okay, everybody shut the heck up. Guys, it doesn't freaking matter whose fault it is, okay? We're all in this situation now. We're all going to die. And like, put aside your petty bullcrap and just focus on getting rid of this giant, okay? You know what? Screw you guys. I'm going home. And so the witch yeets herself out of there. And then the baker is like, well, what are we gonna do now? You know, there's no hope. This giant's gonna kill us all. My wife is dead. I can't do this. And so he leaves the baby with Cinderella and goes off into the forest, where he meets the ghost of his dead father, who had run away. And he's like, dude, you left me as a child. Why did you do that? And the baker's father is like, dude, this is all my fault. I am so sorry. You know, I just wanted to get a nice gift for your mother, and everything just sort of went downhill from there. But it doesn't matter now. You need to go back there and face your problems like I failed to do. So the baker goes back, and they come up with a plan to kill the giant. And then they kill the giant by working together and putting aside their petty differences. And the kingdom is saved.
Oh my god! My god, this battle is epic! My god, this is even bigger than the final battle in the Lord of the Rings movie!
And the moral of the story is, you know, it doesn't matter who's good and who's bad. What matters is that we're all human, we all make mistakes, and only by working together can we defeat these weaknesses that we have. Like giants. Anyway, the musical's pretty good. I give it 10 out of 10. But yeah, so basically this musical was filmed twice, once for PBS and then once for Broadway in HD. And the Broadway in HD link and the PBS link will both be in the description, as well as the Disney Plus link to the movie. Which, like, the movie, you know, it was how I became originally exposed to the musical. But now that I've gotten the chance to go and watch the musical several times, I do not like the movie because it's just dark and gritty and not funny. The musical is supposed to be, like, charming and funny. Like, yeah, it's got dark themes, but it's, like, comedically dark. And the movie just sort of casts all that aside and goes, nah, it needs to be dark and gritty. So I would recommend going and watching the musical and not the Disney movie. Disney can just suck it.
Into the woods and out of the woods, and home before